Now, in your professional career, you started as a press secretary and went to a vice president of a major corporation in like 3 years. Now that's ambition. How did you transition so early in your career to a position like that?
Well, you know, when you start off in a job, and you know, in the case of press secretary to Congressman Walter Fauntroy,
Right.
it was something that I hadn't done before, but I felt that it would add value to me. So prior to that, I'd worked at the Corporation for Public Broadcasting,
Correct.
and then there at the Urban League. Well, what I'd not done was to work on Capitol Hill. So I had the community affairs, I had the not-for-profit organization experience, but never having worked on Capitol Hill.
Okay.
So what I wanted to do was to understand how politics played a role in decision making, and that's how I took the job of press secretary. And from that platform, I was able to move on to become a vice president of government relations for the Cable Television Trade Association. That ultimately led me to be in a position to start BET.
Right. Now, speaking of BET, when and how did you come up with the concept?
Well, BET came about in 1978, 79. And it came about not so much because I was like the only guy thinking about starting a cable network. There were a lot of people who saw cable's potential as a way of providing specialty program or niche programming or targeted programming. Okay. And you know, I was just fortunate to be in the right place at the right time to put it together. Okay. Because I was working inside the Cable Trade Association, so I met all of the cable executives who were building cable systems in the mountainous areas and in the cities. And so to me, it was right place, right time with the right people. Okay. And so the actual idea itself, if you think about it, is black radio had been around a long time. It was targeted programming over radio. Magazines had been around. Ebony Jet, that's targeted print content distributed through magazines. And so BET was sort of an extension of those business models, but it involved satellite and cable technology, which just came about by the time I was in the industry. Okay. So I got the idea of doing BET when I was helping out a guy who was a lobbyist for the cable industry. I mean, he was trying to start his own channel. I was lobbying for the cable industry. He was a business guy. And he talked to me about his business model, which was a channel for the elderly. And so he had a special kind of data about the elderly buys certain products, the elderly consumes certain products, the elderly has different kind of lifestyles, the elderly is poorly depicted on television, all things that are unique to older people. And he was trying to start that kind of a channel. So I asked him, I said, can I borrow your business model? He said, sure. So wherever he had elderly, I crossed it out and put black. Black people have different buying habits, black people have different consumption patterns, black people watch television in different ways, black people are not adequately depicted on television. So when you put all of that together, it just said, gee, let's start this channel BET. So I went to this guy named John Malone, who at that time operated the third largest cable system in the country. He liked the idea because he had some cable systems in black communities, and he saw it as a perfect way to add more content for his cable subscribers to sell more cable, and that's how BET got started.
Now, how were you able to convince John Malone to actually invest in your company? What steps did you take?
Well, John Malone is a strong believer in entrepreneurs. Okay. He fundamentally likes the idea of people who have vision or people who have ideas and can passionately articulate the idea. He likes to back them. Okay. So I was able to convince him because, first of all, he had a small need for the product. I mean, it wasn't totally necessary, but he had cable systems that wanted the product. Okay. The second was he believed in entrepreneurs. He's not the kind of investor who believes in government programs. So. Yeah, if you'd gone to him and say, I want to get a government loan, an SBA loan, he probably would have thrown you out of his office. But if you go to him and say, I believe this product can work, I believe there's a demand for black content, I believe cable operators want to see more black programming, and I think I can find the content, he bought into the notion. So he put the first $500,000 into BET, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Now, being a black man in business, did you ever face any reluctance, in this industry or starting your business? Were people reluctant to invest money in your company?
I think, Tracy, as you understand it, people are always reluctant to invest sometimes in businesses if they don't understand the business. So
Okay.
if you go to people and say, I want to start a black cable channel, and then first of all, they'd say, what's cable? Cable this is back in 1980. There was no
Right.
cable of any consequence in the big cities, the big urban markets. And then you go and say, I want to start advertising on cable, and they say, well, gee, advertisers don't buy cable, it's too small. And then you say, I'm going to provide programming. Where are you going to get the programming? So you face that kind of reluctance from people who don't understand. And clearly there's racism for people who wouldn't invest money with black folks because they don't believe we understand money and wealth and value creation. So you get that. But in the case of John Malone, as I said, he was an entrepreneur's kind of guy. So he believed in entrepreneur, irrespective of color. So getting my first investment in BET was not very difficult. As you build it, you had to get more cable operators to carry it. Then you had to impress upon cable operators that they should carry it because they got black subscribers and black people will pay for it. And then you had to get advertisers to say black people have money to buy their products over cable. So yeah, you have to do it this way. But the one thing I've learned is that race and racism will always be there. It's like rain, but you don't, just stop going out because it's raining. You put on a raincoat, grab an umbrella, and go do whatever you got to do.
Adapt, that's right.
And that's the way I look at racism. It's like, welcome to reality. It exists. Don't let it control your life. Don't let it dominate what you're able to achieve.